topics. Now, before we jump into our presentations and before we go any further, just a few housekeeping rules. Please submit your questions using the chat feature, where our presenters and support team will respond throughout the session. All right, so if you have any questions, not a problem. Drop them in the chat section and we'll have persons from the Trade Board and from our partners here today, the Jamaica Customs Agency and the Consumer Affairs Commission, who will answer your questions in the chat. Additionally, there will be 2 dedicated question and answer segments where you have the chance to ask your questions orally. Please use the raise your hand feature, wait to be acknowledged before speaking. And lastly, the webinar is recorded. So of course, be on your very best behavior. To officially get us started, I am pleased to introduce to you Dr. Major Retired Hugh Blake, JP, Trade Administrator and Chief Executive Officer at the Trade Board Limited, who will welcome us. All right, so please put your hands together in the chat for Dr. Blake. Dr. Blake, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rochelle. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Trade Board's webinar on best practice for motor vehicle importation. I am particularly pleased by the number of registrants for this particular webinar, and it signals to me that there are a lot of people in Jamaica who are very serious about the business of motor vehicle importation. The webinar is an initiative of the Trade Board Limited and will be conducted in conjunction with the Consumer Affairs Commission and Jamaica Customs agencies. The sessions will explore all the key aspects of motor vehicle importation to help you navigate the process. Before we begin, let me just take a little time to tell you that the Trade Board is committed to efficiency and high industry standards, as is signified by our recent ISO 9001-2015 certification. Most importantly, please note that we are here to serve you and pride ourselves in doing so. I also want to encourage you to go on Jamaica Trade Information Portal, JTIP, where you can find most of the information presented here today. JTIP can be accessed through our website. Streamline, our process for importation of motor vehicle is streamlined, as is outlined in the motor vehicle importation policy. So I want to also encourage you to stick to what is in the motor vehicle importation policy, and you can't go wrong. Thank you once again for joining us today. Have a wonderful webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Blake, for those remarks. Thank you for your very warm remarks on this very rainy day. We'll now move into our main sessions. We won't hold you up any longer. We know you have been bursting at the seams with excitement, and the day is finally here. So, our very first presenter today is Miss Althea Matthews, Director of Licensing, Certification, and Enforcement here at the Trade Board Limited. Now, that's a brief overview of Ms. Matthews. Of course, we would love for you to get to know our presenters. Althea Matthews is a highly accomplished professional with extensive experience in management and administration. She holds a master's in management studies from the University of the West Indies and a bachelor's in management information system from Excelsior Community College. Althea began her career at the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, where she advanced from a data entry supervisory role to acting commercial services manager, markets and transportation centers. In September 2020, she joined the Trade Board Limited as Manager of Licensing Certification and was later promoted to Director of Licensing Certification and Enforcement. Ms. Matthews acted in the capacity of Trade Administrator CEO, providing strategic leadership and collaborating with key stakeholders on trade requirements and operational procedures. Althea is passionate about quality management system, strategic planning, and public administration. Her excellent communication, leadership, and human relations skills have earned her recognition, including the CEO Staff Award for Staff Excellence at the TBN. She'll focus today on the process for introducing new makes and models of vehicles to Jamaica and an overview of the motor vehicle dealership application process. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please make her welcome. Over to you, Ms. Matthews.
Pleasant morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am excited to present to you on the topic, best practices for obtaining motor vehicle dealership certification. I am confident that by at the end of this session, you will have a clear roadmap that will guide you through the motor vehicle dealership certification process with ease. So if you are a prospective motor vehicle dealer, then this presentation will provide useful insight in the motor vehicle certification process. Let us begin. Objective of the presentation this morning, ladies and gentlemen, is to give an overview of the Certification and Enforcement Unit, to look at TBL's authority for motor vehicle dealership certification, the requirements for dealership certification, the application process, the inspection process, and we'll also delve into the importation of newly introduced makes and model motor vehicles. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so the Certification and Enforcement Unit is a part of the larger unit, which is the Certification and Enforcement Department that deals with the certification of motor vehicle dealership. And so this unit, the Certification and Enforcement Unit, is headed by the manager, Ms. Sherland Powell, who is supported by 4 inspection and certification officers. Let us big up our certification and inspection officers, please. Thank you. So this unit is responsible for the certification of over 600 dealers island-wide annually. So they have a mammoth of a task in front of them on a daily basis. And so what are the main roles and responsibilities of this Certification and Enforcement Unit? So overall, the unit is responsible for the certification of motor vehicle dealers, motor vehicle brokers, and scrap metal dealers. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we will look into the certification of motor vehicle dealers. That will be our focus for this presentation this morning. All right, so what are some of the responsibility or the roles and responsibility of this Certification and Enforcement Unit? And if you are an existing dealer, you would have been communicating and interacting with members of this department on a daily basis. So for one, we certify a company that meets standard and the criteria to operate as a motor vehicle dealer. We ensure dealers comply with the specific legal and regulatory standards for operation. We conduct regular audits and inspection. Our role also is to educate dealers and prospective dealers of the certification requirements. We provide the necessary guidance to dealers and prospective dealers seeking to obtain certification. We develop a cooperative working relationship with all our stakeholders. And our aim is to simplify the application process for certification. So what gives the Trade Board Limited the authority to certify dealers? Many of you may know of the motor vehicle import policy. You can put a yes in the chat if you do. And the authority from the Trade Board to the Trade Board comes from Section 9.0 of the Motor Vehicle Import Policy, which speaks to the requirements for certifying motor vehicle brokers and motor vehicle dealers. So this section speaks to specific guidelines to assess the suitability of registered business for certification as motor vehicle dealers or motor vehicle brokers. So our authority stem from the Motor Vehicle Import Policy 2014, and that the policy has not been updated since 2014. So who is an authorized motor vehicle dealer? Well, the policy states that a business entity registered with the Companies Office of Jamaica, and certified by the Trade Board Limited to import motor vehicles. So that is the definition that we use as a motor vehicle to distinguish or to categorize an authorized motor vehicle dealer. All right, so if you are thinking or if you have the idea that you may want to get into the trade, now let us look at the eligibility for motor vehicle dealership certification. All right, so the company must be registered with the Companies Office of Jamaica. The Articles of Association must indicate that the company will be trading in motor vehicle. The applicant shall have a permanent address and location of operation. And you will see why. All right, so we segue and we look at the categories of motor vehicle dealers. And there are several categories of motor vehicle dealers. We have new dealers and we have used motor vehicle dealer. So who is a new motor vehicle dealer? This means a motor vehicle dealer in Jamaica who has a franchise from a manufacturer of new motor vehicle and has been certified by the Trade Board Limited to import new motor vehicles for resale to the domestic market. Right? So there must be a franchise agreement in place. In addition to that, companies certified as new motor vehicle dealers are also permitted to import used motor vehicles. So they still have a level of flexibility in the market. All right, so we go and look at the other category, which is used motor vehicle dealer. The used motor vehicle dealer dealing used motor vehicle, and this dealer does not have a franchise agreement with a manufacturer or a written permission. So they will trade in used motor vehicle as well for resale to the domestic market. Companies certified as used motor vehicle dealers can also import new motor vehicles, but the difference is that they cannot import it or buy it directly from the manufacturer, as there is no franchise agreement in place. So I hope now you have a clear understanding of the categories of motor vehicle dealers, and this is how we distinguish them and certify them here at the Trade Board Limited. Moving along. All right, so what are some of the documentation requirements that you will need to acquire motor vehicle dealership certification? All right, so we spoke about the Articles of Incorporation before. I mentioned it here again. You need, or a business certificate of business registration. You need a valid tax TCC. And also, if it is that you are doing servicing, you'll need to have or submit a contract or a proof of certification for your mechanic. We need passport size photograph, as with any application that we know of. The rental and lease agreement, if it is that you own the property or you rent the property, proof of that must be presented. Or if you own the property, the most recent tax receipt is required. All right, so we are now at this, we're still on the documentation requirements. And we had mentioned the franchise agreement. And so for new dealers who need certification, they will need now to submit a copy of their franchise agreement to the Trade Board Limited. If it is that the directors of the companies are foreign nationals, then they would also need to present to the Trade Board Limited proof of their work permit. The warranty for sale of motor vehicles for both new and used car dealers is very important. And this is also required. The limited liability insurance is also another requirement. The NEPA certification and the trade and business license in accordance to the Trade and Business Act. Ladies and gentlemen, all of these documentation are put together in a concise way on our website where you can go and see them for yourself, and the purpose and the agencies that are involved for these, where you can get these certification done, or these documentation. We work in collaboration with other agencies. And another documentation that I don't have on screen is that with the Consumers Affairs Commission and the Fair Trading Commission, the policy indicate that all dealers must be in compliance with these regulations. And so every year for recertification, we ask for a status letter from these agencies to confirm that dealers are compliant with these regulations. All right, so as promised, we will look at some best practices for documentation assessment in the dealership certification process. And so we look at the best practice for documentation. So we ask that dealers don't rely on second-hand information. When you do that, sometimes the correct information is not passed on to you, and so you end up not being able to be certified or the certification process is not as efficient as it ought to be. So we ask that you visit the Trade Board website, download a copy of the trade and of the motor vehicle import policy that will be able to give you enough information. Familiarize yourself with section 9.0. That section will give you enough information on how to proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, don't pick, choose, or refuse from this section what it is that you want to submit. Read also the guidelines as stipulated in 9.1. This section speaks about the documentation, the inspection, and all of that will assist you in getting certified. Check your documentation to ensure that they conform with the policy. So therefore, if we ask for a contract for parts and service, we don't expect to see a letter to say there is a contract in place. We expect to see a copy of the contract. Then in addition to that, the TCC, ensure that your TCC is valid. Another thing with the TCC, I just want to go on that a bit. Sometimes you will get your TCC for maybe 3 months, 6 months. The motor vehicle import policy indicates that your TCC or a dealer's TCC must be valid throughout the period of their certification. And so also the responsibility is to get your TCC updated and submit same to the Trade Board Limited so we can have that information. And ladies and gentlemen, for clarity on the certification process, please contact the Trade Board Limited, the Certification and Enforcement Unit, or the Customer Service Unit. We are willing, ready to help you. All right, we move on. So we will look now at the steps for the motor vehicle dealership certification. All right, step 1. Now we will consult with the Motor Vehicle Import Policy and Trade Board, as I had covered before, so that you are well aware and well au fait of the requirements. All right. Step 2, and we spoke of this before, assess the required documentation and check with the different agencies. On our website, we do have a concise list, as explained, and it also tells you the agencies that are involved for the additional documents. All right. Step 3, ensure that your facility meets the requirements for certification. And you know what I mean. So the facility, you must have your servicing bay. If it is that you are servicing, you're providing your own servicing and you're not outsourcing, you must have a lift or a ramp. You must have your safety measures in place, and you should also ensure that if you have another business that you are operating from the location, it must be distinctly separated from the dealership, right? So I should not be walking, or my officer should not be walking through a bar to go to your office. You should not be walking to a shop to go to your office. So you must establish your location as a dealership. All right, step 4. Once you have all the requisite documents, you check them and all of that, now you register for an account, a user account, via the Jamaica Single Window for Trade platform, JSwift. Many of you on the platform are well au fait with this platform. Step 5, after you have registered for your account, now you will register the company information on the JSwift platform, and it will be assessed and checked, and you will be notified of the status and if it has been accepted. So they will check the company's documents, TCC, etc., just to ensure the validity of the company. All right, so after that has been done and confirmation has been received, then you can apply for your dealership certification. And many of you on the platform would have known that since 2020, our transactional services migrated to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade platform, JSwift. And this would also, as I've just explained, the dealership certification application is also on the platform. All right, so at step 6, you will upload all the requisite documentation, you will pay the requisite fee, and submit your application. All right, so let's go back again to take you through some best practices for seamless application on the JSwift platform, because that is important. Because whatever you submit and how you submit will determine how efficient we perform in the execution of your application and your certification. All right, so step 1, you submit your application 2 months in advance. And I'm really speaking to recertification here, right? So if you're a new dealer, you decide you can do your application whenever you are ready, once you have assessed all your documentation. 2, make a complete application. What do I mean by this? Mean that you check your documentations, you upload, make sure they're correct, make sure they're up to date, and you upload them and pay the requisite fee on the first attempt. And why I say the first attempt? Because the submission of a completed application on the first attempt is a bonus for you, the customer. And we would want to ensure that we certify you in an efficient way. Ensure that all the documentations are correct, that you have uploaded, so check that. Check your profile to ensure, so you go back after you've completed the application process. So you just go back to your profile, check the documentation to ensure that, oh, I have uploaded everything has been submitted. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, for assistance, please contact the Certification Enforcement Unit, Customer Service, or JSwift. All right, so once we have gone through, you have submitted your application, we now look at the certification process. We'll look at the principles for the certification process. So once we get your application, we put the customer in focus, right? We provide timely and efficient feedback to the customer. This includes addressing any queries, concerns, or rendering any assistance that you need. We look at our relationship management. So Trade Board is thrive and is determined and prides itself in creating and maintaining good relationship with all our stakeholders. You are the reason why we exist. And so we pride ourselves in delivering good customer service, good relationship, and we involve you in the process and everything that we do. And we do it because of you. Promote accountability. So the Trade Board have a responsibility, the customers have a responsibility. So ensuring everyone involved in the process takes responsibility for the outcome of their actions, or actions and outcome, right? The Trade Board is continuously making improvement. So we are seeking new ways to ensure that we improve on the certification process. And one of the things that I will kind of let you on right now is that we are working with J-Swift to ensure that certificates, once they're ready, letters, once they're ready, they can be accessed through the platform. And they are assiduously working to make that a reality. And so gone will be the days when we call you and say, come and pick up your certificate. So the process would be more efficient. And this is why we pride ourselves in improving our customer service, improving our processes to serve you better. All right, evidence-based decision making. And so while we're here making decision based on data, and this involves looking at the history of compliance of our dealers, right? And we don't put everybody in one basket. We look to see what is it and how is it that you have been performing, and we make decision based on that. All right. So we now move on to we continue on to the certification process. And now this is more internal when your application comes to us. So the Trade Board Limited committed itself in delivering a turnaround time of 4 weeks for all completed applications, right? So once you have submitted your application, the application is received through the J-Swift portal. Your application is assigned to one of our inspection and certification officer, who will review all your documentations and check to see if everything is okay. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see my arrow going into query. Then, if it is that an assessment has been done and all the documentations have not been presented, then the officer will put your application in query for you to address. So you also need to keep abreast of the platform, keep in touch, continuously checking to see what is the outcome and status of your application. All right. Then, if all is well, the officer will schedule an inspection of your facility, conduct the inspection against set criteria, as I would have explained and outlined before. An assessment after that is done. So they will come back in the office and they will put all their documentations together that they have gathered, all their evidence, and they will submit their recommendation. And I say this to say that once you submit your application, it is not that we are not moving on it, but it takes a process, and that is why we give you a 4 weeks turnaround time. And also for recertifying companies, I would encourage you to do your application 2 months before, because this has implication. once you don't have a valid dealership on the JSwift platform, you're not able to import, and that can be disruptive in your business operation. While we are lenient at times, if you have a poor history, we are not able to fast track the application for you, right? And so we encourage you to submit your application at least 2 months in advance before. Now, we don't want to see any negative implication or financial loss being incurred by you. And so I implore again, submit your application on time. And so the assessment is done, the certificates and letters are prepared, and you are called to pick up your certificate. Right? So that ends our internal process. All right. I just want to also look at the inspection process as promised. So to receive certification and annual recertification, the inspection of all dealership facility is mandatory. So we look at the building and the ground. The space, your office space must have a particular size. The location must be of a particular size. The ground must be of hard cover and your location must be fenced. So the display lot also is also on the criteria checklist. So your display lot must accommodate at least 3 motor vehicles. The customer parking must also be able to accommodate 3 motor vehicles. The inspection process continue. Your service area, if you don't outsource, then your service area should be equipped with ramps and lifts and tools for servicing motor vehicles. You should have at least space for 2 motor vehicles. Spare parts. If it is that you don't outsource, then you should have accommodation for this. Your safety equipment. And we look at the fire extinguisher and how critical that is. And so there must be fire extinguishers or extinguisher based on the size installed in your facility. Well, we touch on next onto environmental compliance, where we look at the location, the facility must have adequate facility or space to address proper disposal of waste, old batteries and tires. And this is in collaboration with NEPA. So upon submitting your application, you will have to make an application or a submission to NEPA. All right, so let me just recap and give you some best practice for inspection, because one of the things why this is important to me, as with every other thing that I've spoken about, is that the inspection process, if it is that you are not ready, this will impact you negatively, and it will also impact the genuine persons that are ready. So acquire the requisite criteria. This is also on our website. Check your facility against the inspection criteria to minimize and to ensure that it meets the minimum requirement. Don't wait until we come, you're fixing this or fixing that. Set it up. This is your business, and we want to ensure that we assist you in the best possible way. Only submit your application for certification if you are ready, right? Advise the Trade Board Limited in advance of your intention to relocate. What we tend to find is that some dealers, it is not only until they are recertifying that we know they move. And so, ladies and gentlemen, our prospective dealers and new dealer and existing dealers, please inform the Trade Board before you relocate. Reason being, we have to ensure that the facility that you're going into meets the minimum standard. And that is important. That is in keeping with the policy. We're guided by the policy, you are certified under the policy, and that is what we're using. All right, so I'm going to look at now, move on to some of the pitfalls in the certification process. All right. we want to ensure that we register all businesses that are interested in dealership. You would have contacted us for a reason. You wanted to do something new. You wanted to enter into the industry. And so on screen, I have the pitfalls that you should avoid. So incomplete or incorrect documentation, and we spoke of that. Your site inspection failures, those are things that will hinder your process or the certification process. Sometimes applications are submitted and we can't establish contact with the applicant. So we can't schedule an inspection and then we end up having to put the file on hold. Please put a valid number and email address where we can contact you in your application. Applicant change location without notifying the Trade Board Limited in advance. That is problematic for us. Difficulty in assessing your location is another issue. Non-compliance with regulations. It is important that you look at what it is necessary, look at the different agencies that are involved, get the requisite documentation, and everything in place before you submit your application. So I hope this information will provide some guidance for you going forward with your application process as what not to do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on. I am not sure how many persons would have come up on this item when reading or so the motor vehicle import policy. So let us shift gear a bit. And we're going to look at the importation of newly makes and model motor vehicle. I am sure that you have seen the Avals, the BYDs, and the J Tours that are new makes and models that have never been introduced to the Jamaican market for resale. And when I'm speaking here about the introduction of new makes and model, I'm speaking in the context of a used car dealer or a new car dealer, right? So once your intention is to import a new car that has not been introduced into the Jamaican market, these are the following steps. So first, you write an application to the Trade Board Limited. You also, with your application, submit a manual outlining the specification for each make and model. So based on TBLs and the Island Traffic Authority's assessment, the importer may be granted permission to import a demonstration model. And this is important because we have to ensure, the Island Traffic Authority have to ensure, and the Trade Board have to ensure that these vehicles are safe for the Jamaican road and in keeping with the Road Traffic Act. So the ITA, once the demonstration model has been imported, the applicant and the ITA will work together to have the unit inspected. Once the unit have been inspected, then the ITA will submit their report or recommendations to the Trade Board Limited. The Trade Board Limited will act on that report and provide a written response based on ITA report. If it is in favor or it is favorable to the applicant, then they can go ahead and do their mass importation. If not, if it comes with specification, then the applicant and the manufacturer will have to take some of these recommendations in mind, because what is paramount in this process for the ITA and the Trade Board Limited is safety, right? So I hope that this information will provide you with some clarity if it is that you want to venture into new markets. And with the way technology is going and the evolvement and a lot of these new vehicles are coming. And so it is important to have this in mind or bear this in mind going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude my presentation, I would like to leave you with 4 important points to remember, right? Number 1, the Trade Board Limited is committed to providing quality and efficient service to all its stakeholders. We are committed to inform, educate, to enable an ecosystem for trade growth and development. Ladies and gentlemen, participants, this is what we're doing today. We're empowering you with the information. Dealers must apply for their dealership 2 months in advance of their due date. I cannot stress that enough, simply because of what I have encountered and the cost that it imposes and the pressure that it imposes on dealers. Lastly, notify the trade board within 30 days of your expiration date if you wish not to renew your dealership license. Remember that we have to plan. We have to plan to execute. And so if you give us that information, that is information that we can act on, we know how many dealers that we are going to do this month, next month, it is important. Ladies and gentlemen, participants, thank you very much for listening. I will hand you over back to our moderator for the rest of the presentation. Have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews, for that very detailed presentation. Listen, if you think that presentation was very comprehensive, very clear, just go ahead and type clear as mud in the chat. Type clear as mud in the chat. Let us know that you understood everything that was said. Everything that was said in Ms. Matthews' presentation. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. So for me, I think that was very clear. The message is clear. Be compliant. Be compliant with the regulations, be compliant with the policy, be compliant with everything that governs the motor vehicle importation process, the dealership application process. Become au fait with the policies that govern the process. All right? And I agree. Please do not take information from the grapevine. It is important that if you have any concerns, any questions, that you contact us directly here at the Trade Board Limited. We are on all socials at the Trade Board Limited, on Instagram, Facebook. We're on X, Trade Board JA. Please reach out to us. You know, we're happy to assist. We're happy to give you the information that you desire, but please do not take the information from the grapevine or hearsay. It's best to contact us directly. All right? So, compliance is key. Compliance ensures it's essential for a seamless importation process. Thank you so much again, Ms. Matthews. Now, another very, very, very important person here at the Trade Board Limited, and I want you to remember their faces, you know. I want you to remember the names and the faces, so when you call down here, you know exactly who to ask for. All right, so next we'll hear from Miss Christina De Harris, Manager of Licensing, who will discuss the motor vehicle imports procedures. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. New motor vehicle dealers, use motor vehicle dealers. Get your pens out, get your notepads out. It's time you have to be awake for this. You have to be awake. It's very important right now. And before I jump into it, of course, I'm going to introduce you to Miss De Harris. Christina C. De Harris is an experienced leader with over 8 years in operations management and compliance, specializing in trade agreements and export facilitation. As a licensing manager at the Trade Board Limited, she has successfully led process improvements, increasing departmental efficiency. Christina's expertise in regulatory compliance, strategic planning, and stakeholder engagement makes her well equipped to share best practices for smart importing. With certifications in ISO 9001 and a focus on optimizing operations, she is passionate about helping businesses navigate the complexities of international trade. Now that was a mouthful. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Christina De Harris. Mr. Harris, over to you.
And thank you, Madam Moderator, for that warm welcome. Part of me was wondering who this lady was talking about, but yes, indeed it is me. Thank you for joining us, and I understand that we are close to 200 viewers. Thank you so much for being here today. And while I've interacted with many of you through emails and phone calls, it's a pleasure to finally connect in this virtual setting. Today, we'll explore key strategies to help you navigate the motor vehicle import process efficiently, stay compliant with regulations, and enhance your operations as a smart importer. Let's dive in. Welcome. Yes, welcome to the webinar on becoming a smart importer, mastering the motor vehicle import process. Whether you're a current importer or a prospective one, this session is packed with valuable insight and practical strategies to help you master the motor vehicle import process. In the next few minutes, we'll explore the smart approach to importing, focusing on key tactics that will streamline your operations and ensure you're fully aware of the critical regulations to avoid costly delays, fines, and other complications. We're excited to share proven strategies that will empower you to make smarter decisions and keep your business running smoothly. Get ready for an engaging, fast-paced session filled with actionable advice, expert tips, and practical tools to elevate your import experience. And let's dive in. We now look at our objectives for today. And firstly, we look at the licensing unit demystified, and we gain clarity on the responsibility and operation of the licensing unit, along with step-by-step process for obtaining import and export permits confidently. Secondly, we look at efficiency meets compliance, unlocking powerful strategies to close gaps, supercharge your operations, and nail flawless document preparation every time. Thirdly, our pre-shipment secrets to success. Now, this I know is a sore point for many of our importers, but we are here today to discover the ultimate checklist to breeze through inspections with zero stress or surprises. And lastly, and the reason that you are here, Smart Importing Unveiled. Power up your strategy with expert insight for smooth, efficient, and hassle-free operations. Let's get into it. The licensing unit, or structure and procedures. Who are we? We are a skilled team of licensing officers, a senior officer, and the manager, myself, ensuring compliance with the motor vehicle import policy, the scrap metal regulations, and other trade-related laws mandated under the Trade Board Limited. What do we do in the licensing unit? We process import and export permit applications for various commodities. Most popularly known, motor vehicles, scrap metals, firearm and ammunition, milk powder, and refined sugar. And these are just a few of the commodities that the Trade Board oversees. Our commitment to you, the customer, we are dedicated to delivering seamless trade facilitation by ensuring efficient processing of fit applications in just 3 working days. And I will stress the point of fit applications in meeting that 3-day turnaround time. Now, we look at our importer eligibility. Who can import? Now, previously, our Madam Moderator made mention of our dealers, but what about persons that are not certified dealers? Can they import? Absolutely. So individuals can import, and non-dealer companies also can import. Under the motor vehicle import policy, there are restricted quantities allotted to these categories of persons, but nonetheless, you are able to import on your own and not just as a certified dealer. Now, we'll look at the requirements for importation, and we'll focus primarily on motor vehicle because that is what we are here for. So firstly, you will need your pre-shipment inspection certificate, your invoice or bill of sale, your title, and export certificates based on the jurisdiction of which your shipment is coming from. Now we look at our steps for submission. First, you register for a J-Swift account, which is pretty seamless and simple. Complete the application details and upload your requisite documents once your account has successfully been created. You will then process and confirm your payment, which is only $6,325. You go on to submit your permit application and then await processing. Once again, I will stress fit permit applications. And when I say fit, I mean all of your documentations are in order and in accordance to the standards of the trade board, then you will meet that turnaround time. And lastly, monitor your email for status updates on the completion of your permit application. Now we move on to, forgive me, I'm having a slight technical difficulty here. Okay, so let's get into it. We are now going to look at our best practices for smart importers navigating motor vehicle imports. Now, motor vehicle imports across the various makes and models and types are Jamaica's leading imported commodity. And as a smart importer, understanding the regulations governing vehicle imports and exports is key to ensuring compliance and smooth trade operations. And this is so desired and required because once you transition to the custom clearance processes, there can be unforeseen delays, which can be costly. So in ensuring that you go from A to Z in as quickly as in as quickly a fashion as possible, ensuring that your permit compliance is in order will only support this process. Now that we have captured our eligibility requirements and steps to submit your application, now we identify what are unfit applications. And these applications are the ones that do not conform to the procedures of the licensing unit or the motor vehicle import policy. Now, this slide coincides with our objective number 2, where efficiency meets compliance, closing gaps and supercharging your operations. Unfit permit applications can cause significant delays in our promised service turnaround time, impacting overall efficiency of the process. These delays affect the operational output of our unit, impacting timely clearance of vehicles from the port. This can lead to unnecessary expenses, including fines due to stalled processing or submission of inadequate or incorrect documents. When the information on your application does not correspond with the details on your documents, these causes bottlenecks in the processing and delays in your shipment. We continue on unfit applications. How do unfit applications in fact impact your permit application process? Firstly, it causes a high query volume. And for every single month, we have a consistent record of 25% of permits that are placed in query. 25%. This is quite a high number of unfit applications to review, and this places undue stress on the processing officers, which delays the genuine applications that are submitted by persons that are compliant with the policy and the requirements. Secondly, it delays the processing of your application, which is due to high impact, high query volumes. So you can see how one balances the other. And lastly, it compromises the process quality and efficiency, which impacts our delivery to you, the customer. And though this is news to come later on, we are now ISO 9001 certified, and in keeping with that standard, our quality is of utmost importance, and unfit application compromises that quality, and there are going to be, or there will be, responses from the trade board and from the system that will allow you to streamline and better align yourself to be in accordance with the processes. Now, as I mentioned, how does the system respond to unfit applications? Now, auto rejection. This occurs when a permit is placed in query for any particular reason, whether a document needs to be updated or the details on the permit are not clear, the permit is queried. It is now on the importer to monitor their email and to respond to that query accordingly. Now, you have a maximum of 42 days to ensure that you respond timely and appropriately in order to complete your permit application process. Once this is not fulfilled, your application will be rejected from the system automatically, requiring you to resubmit a new application. Next, we look at auto cancel. Now, this more so does not fit in the category of unfit applications. However, once you submit an application and store it, you have a maximum of 7 days to make payment before the system cancels it. Now, this can be for various reasons why applications are not paid for immediately after they are submitted. Bear in mind, only 7 days. So once the system auto cancels your permit application, you will have to resubmit a new one. And lastly, permit rejection. And this is when an application is submitted and paid application does not conform to the motor vehicle import policy or procedures of the licensing unit. Now, what are the solutions to all of these areas that I previously outlined? We first look at the best practices to avoid the pitfalls of unfit applications. First, document authenticity and quality. Ensure your documents are verified for authenticity, submitted as clear, legible PDF documents. Proper sourcing from trusted suppliers is essential for your accuracy. And why I have placed emphasis on trusted suppliers, there are persons that are in this sector that act delinquently, and as a result, you, the consumer, suffers. So therefore, ensure that you do your due diligence and make proper research when looking for your suppliers to ensure that the documents that you do receive are authentic and can pass the assessment process by the trade board. Secondly, we look at the submission process. Ensure all required documents are submitted correctly, good quality when uploading on applications, and confirm your payment through JSwift for status updates. Why I say confirm payment, ensure that you would have received your confirmation email, and that verifies that your permit has been submitted and is in the system pending processing. And we are having a slight technical challenge. And while we look at that, I want to just to ensure that you are also aware that this comes right back to where efficiency meets compliance. And closing these gaps will only ensure that your application process moves quickly, seamlessly, and effortlessly. Bear with us just a moment, we're having a slight technical delay. And please drop your questions in the chat. We are here to serve you and we look forward to the communication and the interaction. I know I would have spoken to many of you, and it's probably the first you're seeing my face. It is a pleasure. But bring those questions, send them in. We're looking forward to the interaction and we can't wait to get back into this presentation. On another note, on no account should the shipment of any licensable motor vehicle be made prior to the importer acquiring a valid import license from the Trade Board Limited. Let me just say that once more. especially for the persons in the back, on no account should the shipment of any licensable motor vehicle be made prior to the importer acquiring a valid import license from the Trade Board Limited. And we are back. So now we move on to our objective number 3, and this highlights pre-shipment secrets to success. Discover the ultimate checklist to breeze through inspections with zero stress or surprises. The Smart Importer, PSI, and you. And for the persons that are on the platform that have no idea what this is, let us define it. What is a pre-shipment inspection? A pre-shipment, otherwise called a PSI in short, is a quality control process that examines goods before they are shipped to ensure they meet quality standards, specifications, and regulatory requirements. And specific to motor vehicle in this respect is to also ensure the roadworthiness of vehicles. Who is the issuing authority? Now, since February 2018, Auto Terminal Japan Limited, otherwise known as ATJ, has proudly partnered with the Trade Board Limited to ensure quality through mandatory inspections for vehicles bound for Jamaica coming out of jurisdictions such as the UK, Japan, the USA, Singapore, China, to name a few. Every shipment meets a rigorous standard before approval, guaranteeing excellence from port to your driveway. We continue to look at the pre-shipment inspection. Now, a lot of persons would have fallen victim or genuinely just don't know how to verify the authenticity of this document. And I'm here to make this very easy for you. Now, if you look at this video that's looping on my screen, this is where we verify our pre-shipment. How do you verify? By the way of the chassis or the VIN number or the pre-shipment certificate number. So once you have been issued with a pre-shipment, either your certificate or your chassis number can be used to identify the authenticity of it. Where to verify your pre-shipment? Visit the Auto Terminal Japan website. Select the track inspection option, enter your chassis number or your certificate number, click search, and wait for your results. What confirms authenticity? Once all the specifications on the physical certificate conforms with the system, the certificate is deemed authentic. So looking at this video, you can see where the chassis number is entered. As stated, the certificate and the results come up informing us that we have a valid certificate. It shows you the status, indicating that it was passed. And once you select on that option, you get additional details to further ensure that what is on your physical document conforms with the system, therefore confirming authenticity of your pre-shipment. Now, if you are still in doubt at any point, please reach out to myself or anyone here at the Trade Board in the licensing unit to escalate matters as it relates to pre-shipment or whenever you are in doubt as it relates to sale. Now that we have that covered and we have a bunch of pre-shipment experts here on our platform now, we move on to amendment processing and requests. Now, what is an amendment, you may ask? And let's backtrack just a little bit so you can fully understand the definition as it's on the screen. Permits that are processed or even unprocessed permit applications may sometimes require updating due to changes in the supplier or the consumer circumstances. Now, when these things occur after an application is submitted or a permit is approved, there is a process that is known as an amendment. And this is where updates can be made to the application or the finalized permit in order to continue on with your processes. So by definition, an amendment is a request submitted by the importer, let me stress that, by the importer of an approved permit or pending permit application to update application information to facilitate the following processes. Firstly, custom clearances, and this is where majority of our requests come from. And this is why ensuring that you are a smart importer or importing smartly is important, because these are one of the critical pitfalls that can be avoided when you have correct, precise, and up-to-date information on your documentation submitted on your application. Secondly, the permit processing process, the permit processing procedure. Now, similarly to the customs clearance process, things can change during your shipment based on your supplier, and you need to have that updated. This can be done by way of submitting an amendment request. And thirdly, erroneous information that was submitted on the application. We are human and we do err. So in these cases, we have facilitations to have your applications updated before final approval. Where do you submit your amendment? So all requests are submitted at amendments, and that's amendments with an S on the end, at tradeboard.gov.jm. And be sure to include your request in the proper format. Please be reminded Word documents are not accepted, along with your JSwift payment receipt for a prompt and swift response. We look at the types of amendments that qualify. Now, cancellation, and this is defined as when an importer is no longer interested in the permit or importing the commodity. This process requires a cover letter from the importer detailing the request and the cancellation fee receipt. Once updated, an email response is sent to inform the importer of the permit status. Similarly, we have the vehicle identification number amendment request. And this is where it requires an update to the VIN or a change based on changes by the supplier or after an assessment by the Jamaica Customs Agency. Similarly, you will require a cover letter from the importer detailing the request and the amendment fee receipt. We look at our next type of amendments, extensions. When an importer's permit is expired before the vehicle is cleared from the port, an extension may be granted upon the request. This requires a cover letter from the importer detailing the request, the arrival notice, because the period of extension is quite short and it's only enough to accommodate the clearance of the vehicle. So therefore, the arrival notice is required to ensure that there is verification that the vehicle has landed, as well as the amendment fee receipt. The in lieu of status. Now, this condition is applied to a new permit that corresponds with an approved permit that was cancelled or expired. This only requires a cover letter from the importer detailing the requests. And lastly, on our amendment list, or tariff HS or HS code. And when an importer requires an update to the commodities classification to complete custom clearance, and this simply requires just a letter from the importer requesting the tariff to be updated. And lastly, item details. When an importer requires an update to the general details, vehicle specifications, or attachments to complete customs clearance, this requires a cover letter from the importer, amendment fee receipt, and based on the nature of request, a bill of sight. And let me just reinforce that for bill of sites, all bill of sites that are submitted in an amendment request for update must be stamped and signed by the customs officer, date stamped and signed by the customs officer to validate your documents. And for the moment that we have all been waiting for, and the reason that we are here, for smart techniques. Now, everything I've said before were all the smart techniques if we were really listening. But let's break it down a little bit more so we are clear on what is required to be a smart importer. Now, you have to be specific. Document a clear step-by-step process for each phase of the import journey, from the procurement to the customs clearance. So this means that you select your vehicle, you find a reliable supplier, you collect your documents and ensure they're authentic, you submit on time, make your payment, and await your processing. Next, we look at M for measurable. Monitor the effectiveness of your import strategy by staying informed of regulatory updates, ensuring you are always aligned with current procedures. Now, this is absolutely important because things change a lot sometimes without much notice. And as an importer, it is important for you to keep abreast of the relevant processes and procedures that will impact your shipping processes. Achievable. Submit complete and accurate applications to avoid processing delays and ensure timely approval for smooth operations. Now, this, I believe, speaks for itself. Accurate applications, on time approvals. Relevant. Align import process with your business objectives and customer demands to ensure optimal product flow and profitability. And I want to align relevant to our motor vehicle dealers and how being a smart importer impacts not only you as our customers, but your customers themselves. And lastly, timely. Ensure all permits and necessary documents are obtained in advance, allowing for fast and efficient customs clearance. Now, as we draw close to the end of this segment, I would not be doing you any justice if I did not leave you with a few best practice tips. Firstly, verify your commodity. You want to import? The quickest way to verify how is to capture your commodity code. Contact the tariff unit at the JCA and verify the classification of your commodity to ease the process of verifying your permit requirements. This is important. Next, we look at how do you know if your vehicle is fit for inspection? Yes, there is a criteria and it is available to you. You can access this on the ATJ website and it is known as the pre-shipment inspection criteria. And it is a detailed report that indicates all the areas of inspection. And lastly, getting your invoice or bill of sale. Detailed invoices are mandatory to meet the standards, primarily for applications where only an invoice is required. And we have sent out notices prior to this, so you may be guided by our website or if you visit our social media pages on how to ensure that your invoice or bill of sale is meeting the standard of the trade board. Thank you so much for having me. I am Christina Du Harris, and I hope you are now a smart importer. I now hand over to Madam Moderator. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for that very comprehensive overview of the motor vehicle importation process. Wow. We hope you caught it. We hope you caught it. So far, our two presentations have been wonderful, very informative, very insightful. The information you're getting here today is invaluable. So I hope you are taking your notes. I hope you're paying keen attention because we want you to become smart importers. If you're new to the importing journey, or you are already an existing motor vehicle importer, we want you to be very smart. So please apply the smart techniques that Miss Christina Du Harris shared with us today to become smart importers. Thank you once again, Mr. Harris. And you know what? My audience has been very, very well behaved. And for that, I'm going to give you a reward. All right. So if you can recall at the beginning of the session, I did say we have 2 dedicated question and answer segments. But guess what? We are now at our first question and answer segment where we will allow your mics to be open. You remember, you're gonna use the raise hand option. Wait to be acknowledged. Your mics will be open and then you can ask your question. All right. So we are just about ready. We're going to open the floor for questions now. We know we have a very brief window within which we can answer questions. So you have to be very quick. All right. And we'll try our best to accommodate as many questions as we possibly can. Any questions for us? All right, so I'm going to invite. All right, I'm going to read a question and then one of our two presenters will respond. Someone asked, will a copy of the presentation be made available? Well, the presentation is on our YouTube channel, so of course, you can always go on YouTube, search the Trade Board Limited, and you'll be able to access this stream. You can also check us out on Instagram, and the link will be provided in our bio. All right? When another question is, when a body type is not present, is there a default or other option? Mr. Harris or Ms. Matthews? All right, Ms. Matthews will take this one.
Thank you for that question. All right, so I am assuming that you would have submitted your application and then you're not seeing your body type. I believe once you submit the documentation, or the technical team at the JSWIF will add that body type to the system, and you'll be able to select same. So it's a matter of submitting the documentation. We ask them to add it and you'll be able to select it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Matthews. We have one raised hand so far, so we're gonna go ahead and open your mic. So Morgan, can you say who the person is?
Imani Lawrence.
Imani?
Yes,
Imani
yes.
Lawrence? All right, go ahead.
I have an instance where I applied for a permit, and with the color of the vehicle provided by the import certificate, the pre-inspection certificate, as well as the sales invoice at the same color of gray. But when it got to customs, they were saying it's a different color. They did a bill of sale, and then I had to pay to amend it. Why was that the case? I didn't make a mistake. I thought it was what was there.
All right, Ms. Matthews will assist you with that one.
Hey, thank you for that question, Kimani. All right, so once you submit everything, that this is maybe an anomaly or an error in the color classification as to what the importer or what is on the documentation as to the assessment at JCA. And so once there's an amendment, there is a cost. The cost would be based on the update, because we would have looked at the documentation that was submitted originally, and then we would have done that processing based on what was submitted. Once we have to go back into the application, Kimani, there is a fee that is required. So unfortunately, that is what may have been an unfortunate occurrence with the color, and once we have to go back, Kimani, there's gonna be a cost for that. I hope that answered the question. Madam Moderator?
I am here. All right, I'm seeing a question from a Mr. Melton Hall. Mr. Hall, do you want to ask your question openly? Mr. Melton, you there? All right, so I'm going to invite Ms. Matthews back to the podium to address some more questions.
All right, so I'm addressing a question from Xavier Gordon, and he says, is the ITA process separate from the dealer application process or concurrent? All right, so if I understand your question clearly, then the dealer application is different. However, before I'm suspecting that you're speaking about the new make and model. If it is that you're speaking of the new makes and model, then you'd want to rest assured, give yourself without a shadow of a doubt that these vehicles are safe. And so you'll do that process first. And then once you have clearance, you will do your dealership certification. So it is not concurrent, it goes in a particular sequence. Thank you for that question, Madam Moderator.
right, the floor is open. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask? Anyone else? If your hand was raised and your mic is now open, that means you can go ahead. No? Going once, going twice?
No.
There are some additional questions in the chat as well,
Okay.
in the Q&A segment.
Good
I'm hearing someone say good morning. You want to go ahead and speak?
Good morning, I am Ann Brown Chang. I wrote a question in the chat, in the question, but I'm not hearing it. I want to find out why is the pre-inspection process so cumbersome and also expensive?
Ms. Matthews for that one.
Hi, Anne. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for
All
that.
right, so the inspection process as in the US, maybe you could highlight some of the issues that you have experienced, because what I know is that additional sites in the US have been opened. And so it's allowed accessibility. They are now doing remote inspection. And I must say, Anne, that there has not been an increase in the fees since 2018.
Okay.
There's not been an increase in the fees.
If I may, from the one in Miami, when the email address that you're given, when you send an email to that address, you do not get back response immediately, sometimes days. The telephone number that you call is the same thing. You're getting the runaround all around until like a week after you get back an answer. Also, it's only one place in Hollywood. It's very far. It's not accessible to everyone in terms of your location. It's so cumbersome. So you have to get it there. And if they're supposed to come to you, it depends on their availability, when they want to come and how, and the cost to you, because you have to pay the money first. It's so cumbersome, to put it mildly. And they are not accessible as they want you to think. I have tried it, and that's the reason why I can speak about it.
I've heard you, and this is something that we will make note of, and we will try our best to address it as swiftly and quickly as possible, because we know that time and efficiency is vital to your operation. And I'm going to look into the matter to see how best we can make it more accessible and efficient for you. So my apologies to you for the inconveniences that you have incurred. And we will really try to speak with our agent to make the process more better for you. All right, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. We are only able to take one more question from the raise hand option. So Mr. Howard Green, we're going to go ahead and unmute your mic and you can ask your question. All other questions will be answered in the Q&A segment on Zoom. Mr. Harris and Ms. Matthews and their support team will be in there answering your questions.
All right, morning, everyone.
Hi.
Morning. So I guess my question is a bit of a two-step question. The first would be, can an individual import their own motor vehicle?
Mr. Harris, I'm going to invite Mr. Harris to come ahead and answer that one for you.
Hi, good morning. Could you repeat your name for me so kindly?
I am Howard.
Hi, Howard. And yes, an individual can import a motor vehicle on their own. You will require the services of a broker to clear the vehicle when it arrives. But yes, you can complete the import process on your own. Does that answer your first part of your question?
Yeah, pretty much. And I guess the second part would be the aspect of the custom broker. So I will still need to reach out to somebody else.
Yes, you will require a certified broker to complete the customs clearance process.
Okay. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you. Ms. Moderator.
All right, thank you so much. How was that treat? Was it a good treat? I sure hope it was. And we have more for you, more very informative presentations. Right now, we're about to jump right into digital tools. All right, so the trade board has moved away from anything antiquated. We are very much in the digital era. We are embracing it and we are using it to our advantage to facilitate and regulate trade. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into our J-Swift presentation. Yes, the Jamaica single window for trade. And here from the Jamaica Customs Agency, one of our partners today, is Miss Nikisha Drummond. At this time, I'd like to introduce her. She is the Implementation Support Specialist for J-Swift at the Jamaica Customs Agency. Ms. Drummond is currently employed as a Training and Implementation Support Specialist since January 2022. And prior to 2022, she performed contractual duties as a National Training Specialist on J-Swift beginning in December 2018. Ms. Drummond has over 19 years customs and trade related experience. She knows what she's talking about. Her trade experience started at the Jamaica Customs Department, now agency, where she served since 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, I won't keep you any longer. Ms. Drummond, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session. And as partners with the Trade Board Limited, it is our pleasure to serve the public and provide meaningful information that will assist you while navigating the J-Swift system. So we know you may have questions, just drop them down as we go along and wait until we are at our question and answer session. So I'll be very brief, but at the end, we'll accept all the questions that you may have. Now, the purpose of this session is basically to provide awareness as to the services available in J-Swift specific to the importation of motor vehicle, and at the end, facilitate any questions you may have. So for the persons who do not know, the J-Swift is an implementation by the government, and customs is basically the implemented agency. So it is not a customs system, although we may interact with customs, it is really the government's trade system to allow for greater levels of trade facilitation. Now, our implementation is done in collaboration with our various cross-border regulatory agencies, and the Trade Board Limited is one such. They were also the first agency that we onboarded during our implementation. The system aims at providing greater levels of efficiency. The system is available 24 hours, 7 days per week. So you can access it at any time. We hope that persons can protest to having faster processing and greater levels of efficiency being experienced as a result of using the system. Now, this is just a summary of what the system looks like. So as a trader, whether you're a company or an individual, you're able to access the J-Swift system online once you have a reliable internet connection. We are responsible at the Jamaica Customs to ensure that the J-Swift engine is working. So where you see that JESW as a single window engine, and we ensure that at all times the platform is available. And if there are any glitches or issues, we ensure that in the fastest possible time, you're up and ready to trade once more. Now, once you submit your application, it is routed to the border regulatory agency that is responsible for processing. And we have on the list Trade Board as well as other agencies that we provide services for. Now, these agencies are responsible for reviewing your application, doing their various inspections, and making a decision as to whether or not you approve or the application is rejected. We partner with other services as well, the company's Office of Jamaica. So during your registration process, if you're a company, you will see that we'll ask you to enter details about your company and the registration information, and that is verified. For the payment of your applications, we use the government pay window or payment system, which is from eGov. And so persons are able to make an online payment from the comfort of your home or office or wherever you may be anywhere in the world. Now, once your application is submitted, paid, and processed, the next step from there is that the system sends your approved items only to the Asikuda World System. And Asikuda is the Jamaica Custom Agency's clearance system, whereby your broker, and I must add and highlight that for the clearance of motor vehicles, irrespective of the cost, you require the services of a licensed customs broker. So your broker will access the Asikuda World System, and the information from your approved permit will be in the system waiting for that clearance to happen. Now, if while the broker is preparing your application, there are any discrepancies, meaning that the information does not match in terms of who the importer is, or the general details of the vehicle, or the tariff code, then the broker will reach out to you to have those rectified. And earlier, our previous presenters would have highlighted that you may need an amendment. Now, navigating the JSWIFT system and some best practices. One of the first things we'll highlight is being prepared. So that's our first point that we'll speak about. We'll also speak about checking your process type and your tariff. And Mr. Harris would have highlighted that earlier about the importance of your commodity or your tariff code. Also ensuring that your make and model is in the system. That's another important point that we'll explore, and monitoring your status. Now, in terms of being prepared, it is important that you find out from the Trade Board Limited what information you need to prepare your application. Our previous presenters would have spoken about the different information that you must have available for submission. Now, this information must be stored to your device that you're using to prepare the application. Now, it must be in a form that is clear, meaning in PDF, that's what we recommend, and also ensure that your documents are as concise or as possible, right? So we do not recommend any pictures. As best as possible, save it as a PDF, and that is better for you in terms of the size of the document using the system. You must also, as an agent, check to see if the beneficiary or the person that you're preparing the permit for, and this is for agent services. This means that someone comes to you, you're preparing for the importation of a particular vehicle, and this person highlights to you that I am going to be the recipient of a waiver or a duty concession at customs clearance. It is very important that as the agent, if the vehicle is not being imported to go and sit on a lot, and it is for a specific individual that will clear the shipment in their own name, that application, the trader is highlighted as the importer. Why is this important? When the information goes across to the customs system, there are some categories of importers that we must have in the system to obtain a particular concession. So if you are a franchise holder, then the franchise holder is a registered person or company. And so the system in Asikuda will check to see if the person meets that criteria. For persons receiving duty concessions, they would have obtained that concession from the Ministry of Finance, and that information will also be in the Asikuda system. And there are some checks and balances that take place in that system before they are allowed that waiver or exemption. So if you are providing agent services, you must ensure that you In the system, at registration, you set up yourself as an agent for the individual so that the permit is in the name of the individual. Now, this doesn't apply for warehouse persons because you have a different arrangement, but for the dealers, ensure that if you are acting as an agent for someone, that agent services is properly set up. So you don't have to send an email or an amendment to say, oh, the permit was done in the wrong name, right? So ensure agent services is done if it is required. Another thing is to ensure, and I spoke about the documents being saved. For some of these special concessions, you're also required to add the supporting documents. Also, if there are any special exemptions given, such as allowance given to extended years for vehicles, then the system will also mandate that you attach these proof. If there are categories of importers that were given ministerial exemptions or maybe a board review happened, we will mandate that supporting documents are provided based on the instruction given to us by the Trade Board Limited. So be prepared. The minute you are prepared, then you can go through the system seamlessly without having any glitches or delays. The next thing is to check your process type. Now, the process type works along with the tariff classification. So what you realize that the minute you select a particular process, you will see a list of tariff options being available to choose from. Go through that data very carefully to ensure that you qualify or the importer qualifies to use that particular option. What do I mean? If you are a dealer and you're importing using the process type dealer, you select the tariff code that is for a dealer. This will also check to see whether or not your license is up to date. So the system does that check automatically. If the person is not a dealer, then you're not supposed to use the dealer process types. You're supposed to use the one that says other, right? There are restrictions placed on those. So you must ensure that if you understand the restrictions, so you are always within the amount that is required. So always check with the Trade Board Limited, what am I allowed, what does the motor vehicle policy says, and that you don't have any time wasted, going through an application that you are not qualified to benefit from that option. Again, is there attachment required for that process? And we spoke about that already. And again, I said, ensure all your documents are on your device. Now, the next thing is to check your status. Now, why is it important to check your status? The minute you submit an application to the system, on your user dashboard, you will see the status of your application. So if you submit an application and you store it, it will say stored. If you click register, it will say registered. Once you pay, it will say paid. And the minute that it is sent to query, you will see the status saying on the query. And once it is finalized, you'll see the status saying finalized. Now, what does this mean? I'm going to go through each of them for your benefit. A stored application is basically you delaying the submission of that application. Now, please note that if you are not prepared and you store the application, Ms. Johari spoke about earlier that there are automatic responses that the system will give. It is not for any particular trader. It is very transparent. Irrespective of who you are, the system will operate in the same manner. So if your application is stored and it is left unattended, as Ms. Dohari said, after 7 days, it will be purged. So you'll go back and you won't be able to act on it. Now, if you register the application and it is also left unpaid for a period of time, the system will auto cancel. So persons must ensure that at all times, once you access the system, you are ready to apply for your permit. So we go back to being prepared. Once payment is done, the system automatically assigns the application to an assessor for processing. Now that assessor will ensure that it meets the relevant criteria, you have the supporting documents available, as an attachment. If there are any discrepancies, the query function is available. Now, what happens in the JSwift system is that not only is your dashboard updated, but you're also sent an email notification to say that your application is under query and the reason. So the minute you see that, right away, go ahead, make the changes and respond to your query. Failure to do this, as Ms. Doharis would have highlighted earlier, you have 6 weeks within which the system will auto reject your application. And that happens to anyone who does not comply. So there will be an auto reject on that application. Now, saying that we have met all the requirements and the application has been finalized, you will see your dashboard updated to say finalized. What does finalized mean? Finalized means that a decision has been made on your application, whether it is approved or rejected. So as a trader, once you see finalized, you navigate to the item details page of your application and look to see what the status is for each item. Now, once it is approved, then that means that that information will be sent across to the custom system automatically awaiting clearance. Now, please note that this will facilitate your broker preparing your application, but your application is still subjected on the custom side to further inspections. Now, what we have done up to this point is basically review documentation. So the true proof of what has entered the country is the inspection. And the inspection is done by the Jamaica Customs Agency, the officers at the port. So they will check to see that the chassis, the color, the make, the model, all that is in line with what is on the documentation. Now, earlier someone had asked about make and model, and I'll speak about that very quickly. Every day there is a new vehicle that is introduced into the world, and all those models, makes, and types are not in the system. So in order to have it updated, at the JSwift branch, we ask that you send to our customer service team at support@jswift.gov.jm the information for us to update it. Now, what we ask persons to do is in that submission that they include either the pre-inspection certificate or the pro forma or commercial invoice. Why is that necessary? Now, this is necessary because we have to ensure that you are providing the correct information about what it is that you're planning on importing. Now, persons may have wondered, why is it that we didn't allow for a free text box to type in what you're taking in? And there's a reason. We wanted to ensure accuracy of the data that is stored within the system so that at all times, the information that we pull on is correct. So in the first instance you're importing, you tell us the correct details. And in the second instance, when you import that vehicle, the information will still be in the system and it will be correct. Now, we encourage persons as well to contact support for all system-related issues. Now, we have a 24-hour system, which is our email, that is available. Now, we do not have officers available 24 hours a day. However, our emailing system works, which is support@jswift.gov.jm, is that the minute you send an email, it is automatically assigned. So the officer that it is assigned to is responsible to review and to close the case. And once it is closed, an update should be made. Now, why do we encourage persons to send an email? Now, there are times when there may be issues that may be system related or otherwise. And the minute you send an email, there is a record that you did contact us regarding the particular matter. And we have had instances in the past where persons made a telephone call and they said that I did report that I was having an issue with the system. And then we said, who is it that you spoke with? And they are not able to give us that information. And we have no record of this happening. Now, the implications are that this issue may result in you not obtaining your permit before the vehicle gets to Jamaica. And for persons in the trade community, you know that for the Jamaica Customs Agency, once an item requires a permit before importation, if the item, in this case a vehicle, reaches Jamaica without that permit being issued, then it constitutes a breach of the Customs Act. And it's a penalty, there's a monetary penalty that you're required to pay. All right, so we encourage persons, if at any time you are experiencing an issue that you believe that is system related or you have any concerns, contact us, send an email to us at support@jswift.gov.jm. If there is anything spilling or a turnover or any implications from this email, we will always, from this issue that you reported, we will always revert back to the email. We will check to see whether or not it was an issue on our side. And if it is an issue on our side, you will not be penalized for that. But the investigation has to take place before that decision can be made. So at all times, send your email. Now, we have a dedicated training team and also customer support team that is available to assist persons. We have online training resources available as well. So persons who may need to know how to submit an application, you're new to JSwift, or how to register to use the services, you can always reach out to us at learning.jswift.gov.jm, or you can go onto our YouTube channel at Learning JSwift. And once you access our training videos on the YouTube channel, you can navigate through the different videos that we have and tutorials to the service that you wish to perform on the JSwift system. And also, if you want to import a motor vehicle, whether you're an individual or a company or a dealer, the tutorials are there to assist you as well. If you want to make payment, we have tutorials on how to make payment, how to respond to a query if one was sent to you. And in light of not being able to navigate through the system, you can still reach out to us at support@jswift.gov.jm. We encourage you to include a contact number so that we are able to call you in the event that whatever you entered in the email is not clear. All right, so we encourage you. So in terms of best practices in navigating the system, contact us if you need any assistance. Visit our YouTube channel, and also at any time if there is an issue, just reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to assist you. It boils down to being prepared at all time, and once you are prepared, then you should not have any issues while going through the different services on the JSwift system. We also have a number you can contact us on, 750-3050, 750-3096-7, if you want to speak to anyone via telephone. But so you can choose which one works best for you. All right, so at this time, I'm at the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll hand over right back to the moderator.
Thank you, Ms. Drummond. Thank you for that presentation. It was a good presentation. And if JSwift sounds like a smart tool to you, it's because it is. It's a very smart tool. And new dealers, you cannot go around JSwift. You have to apply for your permits and licenses on JSwift. All right, you have to use the tool. There's no other way to apply. There's no other way to apply for your permits nor your licenses. You must access JSwift. All right, so if you want to learn how to use the tool, it's tutorials, and access tutorials is learning.jswift.gov.jm. If you need support, support.jswift.gov.jm. All right, thank you once again, Ms. Drummond. Now, let's shift our focus a bit, but we're going to shift it to an equally important aspect of motor vehicle importation. And listen, Christmas, they say Christmas is coming up, and they say, well, to me, it's the most wonderful time of the year. But for some, it's considered the silly season, and we don't want to be silly people. So we want to be very, 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 very equipped with the knowledge as it pertains to customer rights and responsibilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have with us Mr. Richard Rowe of the Consumer Affairs Commission, or one of our partners here today, and he's going to take us down the road of consumer rights and responsibilities. So I want you to pay very keen attention. Very useful information coming up right now. Let me introduce you to Mr. Rowe. He is the director of the Western Region of the Consumer Affairs Commission. Mr. Rowe is a former banker and currently director, of course. Mr. Rowe oversees the operation, inspection, and field functions of the commission through its regional offices, with responsibility for supervision of staff, and provides technical and administrative support to the Director of Field Operations. For over 20 years, this consumer advocate has committed himself to public service and the empowerment of others. One of his greatest achievements at the CAC was his successful resolution of complaints that in one instance resulted in 27.5 million refund and compensation. Today, this remains the single largest individual monetary compensation negotiated by the CAC. He's not here to joke around. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together, clap in the chat for Mr. Richard Rowe. Mr. Rowe, the floor is yours.
Wow, thank you very much. It is really a pleasure to be here and to be sharing with these beautiful ladies and very what is it? I see a few men here. But I noticed I was the only man picture on the flyer. Yeah. And of course, that's important. I am used to this in customer service, in the area of customer service. We get used to these things. The ladies are outnumbering us, you know, but that's good. Today, I want to talk with you a little bit about consumer rights and responsibilities. And I'll share with you some very, very important insights here, folks. The consumer, folks, is the largest economic group and plays a vital role in any market economy. And when empowered, consumers can improve economic performance by helping to drive competition and business innovation. And this is important, you know. But as to whether this is really and truly happening in Jamaica, not so sure. But I believe as the largest group, we should be effective in doing what we're doing out there with business people. Now, I'll just give you a very brief history of the Consumer Affairs Commission. We started out as the Prices Commission under the Trade Act, yeah, as a Prices Commission in 1971. And of course, in 1985, Jamaica became a signatory to the United Nations guidelines on consumer protection, recognizing the 8 basic rights of the consumer. Now, it's important to note that after a while, it was very difficult for the government to maintain price controls. And so in the early 1990s, we experienced what we call the trade liberalization era. And during that time, things changed. And of course, the name of the consumer, of the commission changed to Consumer Affairs Commission. And of course, folks, with those changes come changes in terms of our role and our functions, right? So we provide consumers protection through the evidence-based advocacy. We looked at, you know, resolving marketplace disputes through our complaints resolution area, we also look at targeted education program to protect consumers and businesses, and the promotion of regional consumer policy agenda exposed under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. Now, these are four very, very important activities of the Consumer Affairs Commission. Allow me, please, to brag a bit. I want to bring to your attention the fact that over the last 3 years, we have been successful in getting back into the pockets of consumers, not our coffers, into the pocket of consumers, $131 million in refunds and compensation. And a lot of that came out of vehicles. Yes, a lot of that came out of motor vehicles. So we handled some 4,390 complaints and resolved 3,532, a resolution rate of 80.45%. But we also had to make sure that consumers were empowered, right? And so we were able to directly reach, in terms of our consumer education program, 268,611 persons over a 3-year period. And that was coming straight out of the pandemic. Now, folks, what are our rights? The truth be told, a lot of us don't know our rights. We go across the island, and when we ask persons that really don't know, some students they did it in social studies at the point when, you know, I was doing it for the exam. So after me done study and pass the test, everything fly out of my head. But what are our rights as consumers? I want to take you through the 8 basic rights, yeah? The right to the satisfaction of basic needs. I know we have basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, transportation, etc. And the government has a responsibility to ensure that these are in place for us. But we also have the right to choose. And in this case, you can choose who you want to do business with. So choose the right importer. How do you get there? Perhaps visit the trade board site and see who are the registered, these people who have the authority to bring in vehicles. So you have the right to choose, folks, and I love that right. But you also have the right to information. All the information that is relevant to help you make up your mind about which vehicle, what color, etc., etc. All the information. And by the way, the model year is a very, very important one, yeah? The model year of that vehicle. We also have the right, and I'm just touching these very quickly because I know we have a lot of other things to do, yeah? And so we will be out of here shortly. But we also have the right to be heard. And I see that demonstrated on my television. The right to protest, yeah? That persons really need things to be better. And so, but it's not a real individual right, it's more a group right where you collectively come together and protest to ensure that the authorities hear you and resolve your issues. But we can do it without blocking the roads, folks. I beg of you, stop blocking the road, because if the road is blocked, we could come here, come share with you this morning. Yes? So let's be careful how we do that. We also have the right to redress, and it's not to take off your clothes and dress up again, right? Redress in our consumer education program are the 3 R's. What are these 3 R's? When you make a purchase and there's a problem, you go back to the vendor. The vendor is supposed to do one of 3 things. First, they will want to repair the item. So the first R is repair. And in this case, your vehicle. Yes? Repair. Under the terms and conditions of your warranty. Yeah? Repair. But the second thing that they should do, if the repair is not possible, or that it's going to take too long, etc., etc., they can replace the vehicle, yes, with one of similar value. Please note, with one of similar value. Don't just replace, yeah? It must be of similar value. But then also, if a repair is not possible, if a replacement doesn't happen, oh boy, Mr. Rowe, you want to see how you get the last one on the lot, you know. So where does that leave me? Guess what? A refund of my money. And I beg you, don't make me have to shout. No make me have to talk and go on bad. Because under the law, folks, we are entitled to this. So you might say, oh, but you know, we have a no refund policy. I don't care about your no refund policy. What I'm saying to you is that the law, the Consumer Protection Act, really is bigger than your policy. And therefore, the consumer is entitled to a repair of the item, a replacement of the item, or a refund of their money. We have next safety as another right. Very, very important. The right to safety, and in this case, we want the vehicle to be roadworthy. You know, I've heard of situations where people drive the vehicle out of the parking lot of the place, happy that them have new car, and then by the time them reach them yard, them broke down. And you wonder what is going on. So, safety. The right to consumer education, and that is going on right now, online, with us. And finally, the right to a healthy environment. We have all these rights, folks. So let's make sure we make a note of them so that when we have another problem later, we can always refer to these rights. But we also have responsibilities. And I say to consumers, look here, there's no rights without responsibilities. You have responsibility. What are these responsibilities? I tell you, first of all, you must be aware of your rights, aware of what to do when your rights are being breached, aware of the organizations that you should be talking with when things are not being resolved. But guess what? We have a can't bother your attitude. We spend $500,000 and we can't bother. We spend $5 million, we can't bother. I mean, I wonder how much we need to spend to bother. But I'm not one of those. And don't tell me, say, oh, it's because you work at the Consumer Affairs Commission. No, no, no. You must catch me when I was in high school. I don't play. When I spend my money, I get my money's worth. I don't care what you're saying, right? We also have a responsibility to be socially concerned about others. We need to make sure that our actions are not affecting others and people's business. I mean, can you imagine you make a purchase and there's a problem and you go back to the store and you're not satisfied with how they might treat with you or the importer, and the next thing we know, the place burned down. No. We have to be much more responsible consumers. We also have the responsibility to come together, act in solidarity with each other when we're getting, you know, some things are getting away from us. We can come together and deal with that responsibly. And also, we have the responsibility to the environment, to protect the environment. All of these are very important. Now, very quickly, I want to just share with you very briefly how we investigate breaches of according to our responsibilities at the Consumer Affairs Commission. The consumer must first go back to the merchant to make sure that they have them know that there's a problem and have them intervene and resolve it, right? Now, if the matter is not resolved, then you perhaps need to come to us. Please don't go to the police. They have more than enough on their plate. So come to the Consumer Affairs Commission, and you don't have to visit our offices, you know, folks. A call, sometimes you don't even have to leave the premises of the merchant. You can just call us. We will intervene, right? And the CAC will contact the vendor to get their side of the story, yes, and to see how the whole thing corroborate. And then, of course, we will seek compensation on your behalf if there is, in fact, a breach of the Consumer Protection Act. And of course, if that is not remedied right there, we can get it remedied in our tribunal as well. We try to resolve each matter within 10 working days, but of course we know some cases, it can't be 10 days at all. Sometimes people will get a vehicle to go on working with until the matter is resolved, but it's one of those things. And our services are at no cost to the consumer. I'm sure you're happy about that. And businesses, by the way, as well. But I can't finish this conversation without just bringing to your attention some of the issues that we see coming to regarding the importation of vehicles and so on into the Consumer Affairs Commission. One of them is the whole issue of import documentation, the C87 form, yeah? And sometimes it has another importer on it and not the vendor that you're dealing with directly. Now, it means that you need to be asking questions and making sure, because that person who is importing may not have all the responsibilities as the merchant that you have engaged with this matter. So it's important that you know that this person is able to import the vehicle on your behalf, and that anything regarding those issues can be resolved without going through a third party, etc. Specifications on your vehicle, example, 2-wheel drive versus 4-wheel drive, yeah? Engine, chassis, all of these things. You need to make sure that these specifications are very clear ahead of the importation of the vehicle, because once it landed Jamaica, we're having issues. And so folks, please, you have a responsibility as consumers, but you also as the importer, and I know you are on, and I'm happy you're on, because you need to provide all the information to your customers. Knowledge of all associated costs. Yes, because this can be increased based on the delays that might be happening at customs and so on. So it's important that we know all the associated costs and the conditions behind those costs. Yes, and then finally, the inconvenience caused when your vehicle is among a set of items being imported by the vendor who may be having issues with the other items, not yours, but the other items, that could inconvenience you bad and create more problems. So ask all the relevant questions, provide all the relevant information so the person can determine, do I want to do this, yes or no? And of course, when you would have done all of that, we ask the trade board to ensure that whatever list is there as the licensed importers, yeah, is kept updated, right? It's kept updated so that consumers will know who are the persons there that they can get these vehicles in to assist them. So, in closing, yes, in closing, I want to know if you download our CAC app. I know I have a whole heap of apps on my phone, but I don't know what those apps are for. But this one, folks, is for information. All the relevant information that may be affecting you and you don't even know. Information like on recalls and all of these things. If vehicle recalls happen from time to time, but we don't know. We don't have a clue. We don't listen to no radio. This app will help you to identify the recalls, all the recalls. We say to you, use the app to stay safe, use the app to stay informed, and certainly to take action because you can lodge a complaint through this app to the Consumer Affairs Commission. All right. And then where do you find us? We're at 3 locations across the island. Yes, our head office is at 17 to 19 Connolly Avenue. We have moved there since May of this year. And there's all the information, how you contact us, email, telephone number 619-4222, and it goes to 30. But also the other 2 offices, Montego Bay, 10 Delissa Drive, the office of the Prime Minister, as well as the Mandeville office, 23 Caledonia Road in Mandeville. Folks, I've said a lot, and I'm sure you might have questions, and we'll go through the Q&A. But in the meantime, may I wish for you every success, good health, happiness, and above all, inner peace. I want to thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to share, and I will be available to answer any of your questions, however difficult they might be this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
I knew that was gonna be a good presentation. You see, when I saw Mr. Rook stepping in yellow shirt, the song My Girl by Temptations, you know, I've got sunshine. I'm not giving you any more, but that's the song that came to mind. Thank you for that presentation. So, download the CAC app, ladies and gentlemen. Download is very important that we know our rights and our responsibilities as consumers in Jamaica. Stay safe, stay informed, and take action on consumer-related issues in Jamaica. Mr. Rowe, I need to talk to you. I have a complaint. You see, I'm trying to see if I can surpass that 27.5 million refund and compensation. So we'll talk off here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the end, well, almost at the end of today's session. I hope you're still with us. I hope you're clear on everything. I have a treat for you, similar to the one you got earlier after this presentation. So please have your questions ready. Have all your concerns ready to share with us. We'll go ahead again and unmute your mic when the time is right, and you'll share with us any questions you have, and we'll address them as best as we can. Earlier, we told you the Trade Board Limited is ISO 9001-2015 certified. Yes, it's a big deal. And what it shows is that the Trade Board Limited is founded on, you know, collaboration and teamwork. And we are here putting in good work so that we can offer you proper quality, high quality service, right? And so our next presenter, very important that you get to know her. She is Mrs. Shari Ramsey Patrick, and she's the acting manager of customer service here at the TBL. All right. So of course, you know, your feedback, all your complaints, all your questions and concerns, you can definitely reach out to Miss Shari Ramsey Patrick. She's the person to assist you. Let me introduce you to her formally. Mrs. Ramsey Patrick has over 10 years of experience in customer service under her belt. All right. She has been employed to the Trade Board Limited since 2020, and she has a host of qualifications in client relations and customer service. So she is right for the job, and she is an expert in the field. All right, Mrs. Ramsey Patrick, it's over to you. The floor is yours. Please make her welcome.
Thank you, moderator. I'm excited to share with you how the Trade Board Limited is elevating customer support. Just a minute, please. The Trade Board Limited is committed to delivering high-quality service and recognizes the importance of customer feedback for improving organizational performance. Feedback is of significant value to TBL and is seen as opportunities to improve in areas needed to satisfy our stakeholders. We view all feedback, suggestions, and complaints as opportunities to improve, grow, and better serve you. The objective of this presentation is to highlight TBL's commitment to quality, outline the service standards, and explain the feedback mechanisms. It also aims to emphasize the importance of the customer satisfaction survey. It details the customer complaint management system and promote awareness of the customer rights and responsibilities. The Trade Board Limited, our goal is to create an experience that exceeds your expectations. We focus on understanding what's important to you and ensuring that your needs guides our approach, whether it's understanding your needs, delivering quality service on time, offering knowledgeable guidance, or simply listening to your concerns. We're committed to delivering excellence at every step. As of November 2024, the Trade Board Limited is officially ISO 9001-2015 certified. This certification is an internationally recognized standard for quality management. This further cements our commitment in maintaining the highest standard of service delivery. What does this mean for you? Well, service excellence. You can trust that our processes is delivered against established standard in a manner that will effectively satisfy your needs. And also customer focus. We are dedicated to continuously improving our service to ensure your satisfaction at every step of the way. TBL's commitment to accessibility, maintaining service standards across multiple channels, whether you contact us by email, phone, or social media. Our team is here to support you. Written correspondence will be acknowledged within 1 working day, and a full response will be provided within 3 business days. Privacy and confidentiality are paramount, and we're committed to safeguarding your personal information in accordance with the Data Protection Act 2020. The TBL service standards import permit, refined sugar import permit takes 3 working days to process, while export permit, firearm and explosive export permit, plasma export permit, sugar export permit, brown sugar, are complete within 1 working day. For scrap metal license, both company and individuals, application of a turnaround time of 5 working days, while scrap metal permits are processed within 3 hours. Cement permit, amendments, cancellation, and administrative requests are processed within 1 working day. Dealership turnaround time is 4 weeks. Please note that the turnaround time outlined are guaranteed once application is submitted in accordance to the TBL policies and regulations. The Trade Board Limited welcome your feedback to aid in our consistent improvement in service delivery. Customer feedback helps us to better understand your needs, addressing any challenges, and enhancing the overall experience. To make it easier for you to share your thoughts, we've provided several mediums for feedback, including our feedback form at www.tradeboard.gov.jm, our customer suggestion box, and our annual customer satisfaction survey. For any assistance, you can email us at csu@tradeboard.gov.jm. customer satisfaction survey. Why should you complete our customer satisfaction survey? Well, to influence change and to better customer experience. The Trade Board Limited truly appreciates the time you took to respond to our customer satisfaction survey. TBL wants you to know that we hear you. The insights provided help us improve our services. TBL customer complaint management procedure is based on a two-tiered approach to complaint handling. This provides resolutions to address informal and formal complaints. Informal complaints are made verbally and seeks a quick resolution without a formal process, while formal complaints follow a specific process and involve a detailed investigation. For any complaints, you can reach us by email, telephone, face-to-face, and social media. We promise a timely response with acknowledgement within 1 working day and resolution, if possible, within 3 working days. For more complex issues, our customer service unit will keep you informed every step of the way. For customer rights and responsibilities, the Trade Board Limited commitment to customer rights is another core aspect of our service. You have the right to transparent and fair complaint handling, acknowledgement of complaint within a specific time frame, and I just identified that as 1 working day. Timely update and resolution of complaints. And the next right is the right to be heard. The Trade Board Limited has implemented a customer complaint management system, and suggestion box is placed at our location. In addition, TBL conducts annual customer satisfaction surveys. The right for fair treatment. Be treated fairly and with respect in all interaction. The right for information. Customers have the right to receive accurate information about our services. Any changes to policies and services or terms that may affect you. As Mr. Rowe stated before, there's no rights without responsibility. To make our job easier, we ask our customers to treat our staff with courtesy and respect. Be proactive in the submission of your application or applications. Provide feedback through our customer satisfaction survey and other platforms to help us improve our services. Be knowledgeable of TBL's policies and regulations. As we continue on this journey to elevate customer support, we thank you for your role in helping us to evolve. We look forward to working with you to make your experience at the Trade Board Limited better than ever.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Ramsey Patrick. Thank you for that very useful presentation. All right, customers, you must know your rights, you must know your responsibilities. It also helps to make the process of your motor vehicle importation as seamless as it can be. All right, so thank you once again, Mrs. Ramsey Patrick. And now it's time for our second and final question and answer segment. Now we're going to unmute your mic. Please remember to use the raise hand option. Yes, wait to be acknowledged, and then your mic will be open and you can speak. Now, you can still go ahead and utilize the Q&A section of the Zoom chat, of the Zoom, and we still have our presenters and support team in there answering your questions. So, any questions for us, Mr. Morgan?
Just one at the moment.
One at the moment. please open their mics. If your mic is open, that means you can go ahead and speak if you have your hand raised. Morgan, can you help us in identifying that person?
Not sure what pronunciation of the name.
Surname?
It's last name of the person is H-U-A. Person is from Japan.
Oh, we have a person from Japan. Not hearing. Any other raised hands? Mr. Huda or Hood, or I'm not sure of the pronunciation, forgive me. All right, doesn't seem to be responding. So if there are no questions, there's one more. Can you help us in IDing the person?
My name is Customs.
Hi, LaDonna.
Hi, Rochelle. Good morning or it's afternoon
Mhm.
now.
Yes,
You're
it is
hearing me?
loud and clear.
Excellent. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon, everyone. And this is certainly an excellent webinar session. I thoroughly enjoyed it, for the time that I joined. The presentations are concise but very comprehensive, and, they have provided very valuable information. So excellent job to the Trade Board team. So
Thank
you're welcome. So I have a comment and also a question.
Sure, go ahead. LaDonna, are you still with us? Your mic is still open, LaDonna.
Some questions in the chat.
I'm not sure. LaDonna, I'm not sure what's happening if it's on your end, but we're not hearing you. Maybe a connection did. All right, so until LaDonna returns with her question, I'm going to invite Mr. Richard Rowe of the CAC to address a few questions and concerns. Mr. Rowe.
Okay. I'm here again, yes. I think, what were the questions again, please? Oh,
Does 3 R's apply to person use?
okay. The question is, does the 3 R's apply to person vehicle sale? Yes, they do. Once you're getting into the issue of trade in that respect, they do apply. All right? They do apply. What's the next one? If the vehicle was auctioned, do you only get refund for the, do you not get refund for the duties that you paid? I'm not sure if I'm getting that clear though, because why would the vehicle be auctioned? Is it as a result of something that is it negligence on your part? What would be the reason for an auction? But should that happen, the law says that the consumer, once it is not their fault, they should be returned to their original position. And so the original position would have to be the position you were in before you made that purchase or before you made that payment. And so if there are other associated costs, yes, and that has nothing to do with you, then of course, those would need to be refunded to you, all right? And then it says, how long do vendors have to resolve any consumer-related issues? No, that is a challenging question, simply because the things vary from one issue to the next, right? And so we can't force anybody to resolve the issue within a specified time. However, what we can do is to ask the merchants to expedite the issues quickly and to have the matters addressed accordingly. Now, as we have so many importers online, may I use this opportunity to talk just a moment on the issue of customer service? Because sometimes we forget that it is the customer who keeps us in business. Sometimes we seem to forget that the customer is not just a one person, because this person could be with you for a lifetime if you know how to treat them and to deal with them in a very respectful way, that they will always be coming back to you and making referrals. I know businesses boom when people can say, no man, you have to go to Mr. So-and-so. He is the best person to import vehicles into this island. And I've had no problem with him. And if there are any customer service issue, he will resolve it. Oh no, I forgot to pay me for this still. But the truth be told, folks, I beg of you, customer service is key. Do not treat your customers as though they represent just a number. Yeah? Treat them with respect, and please ensure that you keep their information, because 5 years later, should there be another set of importations that you'd love to get off your hands, you can call them and say, hey, I have an upgrade for your V cleaner. Are you selling that one so you can get this one? That kind of a thing. Customer service, folks. Keeping your customers happy is key in doing business, especially here in Jamaica, because word of mouth is powerful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Thank you so very much for answering those questions. Now, LaDonna, I think LaDonna is back, so I want to hear what LaDonna has to say. You may go ahead, LaDonna.
Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you so much. Right. So I was making a comment in relation to what Mr. Rowe had indicated in his presentation, and following that comment, I also have a question. So sometimes persons indicate, matters of delays at quote unquote customs. However, persons are also reminded that there will only be any kind of delay if the documentation is not intact. Whether there needs to be something added or something amended or something done, whatever it is. Once the documentation is intact, then clearance will be quick and swift, right? It will be fast and efficient. So just to bear that in mind, we're asking persons once they're doing importation, etc., that their documentation is intact, and export as well. So just to bear that in mind. Mr. Rowe, you said something that's rather interesting, that some entities have this quote unquote no refund policy. They sometimes have on their receipts on exchanges only, no refund, or they may say refund only within 7 days. And then there are some other entities, I guess the bigger ones, that depending on what it is, you may be signing something and they say, well, if it is that you're doing a particular transaction, you have this particular time frame to ensure that you pay additional fees or so and so, or monies, and if not, then it's forfeited. So the Consumer Protection Act is there, but how do you treat with those gray areas regarding no refund? Especially when it's on the receipt or you've signed something.
All right, I'll invite Mr. Rowe to come back to the podium to answer that question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for that question, LaDonna. But listen, the things will vary from situation to situation. However, the Act is very clear on the processes. The issue here might be one of timelines. Now, we say to persons, it must be what we consider reasonable. And reasonableness in law is very, very, very applicable to every situation, right? So we'll have to assess the situation, right? And the whole time behind it. But guess what? It doesn't matter the company's policy. The Consumer Protection Act supersedes that policy. And if we recognize that that policy is unreasonable to the consumer, we will treat with it accordingly, right? It must be reasonable. And as we're speaking to importers, we beg of you, if you're putting policies in place, check in with the Consumer Affairs Commission to ensure that your policies are reasonable. So we can offer some assistance and service to you too, as the importer. If you're putting policies in place, just share what those are so we can help to guide you. I know we don't have all the answers, but where we are having challenges, we will get the information and provide it to you forthwith. All right? I hope I have answered your questions.
Yes, you have, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate. And thanks again, Rochelle, and to the entire Trade Board team. Excellent webinar again. Have a great one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, LaDonna. Thank you so much. And we are at the end of the Q&A and sadly at the end of today's webinar. Yes, we are at that point of the show where we really don't want to go, but we have to. But before we go, I'd love to invite, at this time, Ms. Kanika White Tomlinson. She is our Senior Legal Counsel at the TBL to deliver the closing remarks.
Thank you, Rochelle. In light of the time, I'll be very brief, and I'd like to say on behalf of the Board of Directors and the Trade Administrator and CEO of the Trade Board Limited, we would first like to thank our presenters from the Trade Board, from the Jamaica Customs Agency, and from the Consumer Affairs Commission on covering areas of the dealership requirements, inspection requirements, importing, on how to import new makes and models, becoming a smarter importer, permit requirements, J-SWIFT, consumer rights and responsibilities, and last but most of all, important to the Trade Board, the customer support that we provide at the Trade Board. We know that the new year is approaching and persons may want to take on the services of the Trade Board in the different formats that we have indicated. And so at this juncture, I would just like to wish you and your families a happy holidays in whatever form that may take, and a prosperous, empowered, and compliant new year. Thank you, and over to you, Rochelle.
Thank you, Kanika. Thank you so much. All right. So sadly, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with us.
I realize that I didn't thank the most important persons. I'm sorry for this webinar, for the staff. How could I forget their staff? My apologies. I'm sorry. I thank the staff and the team of the Trade Board who worked very hard for the last or so to put this seminar together. I hope it is appreciated by our listeners and our viewers. I'd like to thank you all as well for staying in, because without you, as the gentleman from the Consumer Protection Affairs said, we wouldn't be here to provide these services. And so I'm hoping that you utilize the information that you got today in a very fruitful and useful manner. We are here to support you. We are having these seminars to improve our relationship so things can move faster and smoother. Once you know what to do, then it should move very quickly. Once you know what timelines we have in place, both of us would also move very quickly. So it was very remiss of me, I'm sorry, not to thank the Trade Board team, and for you, the listeners and viewers and our partners and stakeholders. And again, to wish you a very, very merry holidays if you celebrate Christmas. If not, happy holidays in whatever form you celebrate it. And I was purposeful when I said prosperous, empowered, and compliant New Year. Sorry again, Rochelle, over to you.
Apology accepted, Kanika. Thank you. All right. Thank you once again to our organizing team here at the Trade Board Limited. Thank you to our partners from the Jamaica Customs Agency and the Consumer Affairs Commission. Thank you so much to all our presenters, the experts. You heard from them. They gave you the information. Now, use that information to go forth and be great, and to be great on your journey of motor vehicle importation. So whether you're existing or you're, a budding entrepreneur looking to get on your motor vehicle importation journey or dealership journey, you have the information. We gave it to you on a platter today. Use it wisely. All right. So it's not goodbye, but it's see you later. Please stay connected with us on our social media platforms. That's Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn at the Trade Board Limited. We are also on X at Trade Board JA. Check us out on YouTube at the Trade Board Limited. We'll have this stream up for you there. You can go and rewatch. You can share it. Please share it. Please share the information. And you can always contact us. Remember, we're not dealing with no grapevine for information. Contact us directly at the Trade Board Limited. Send us an email at info@tradeboard.gov.jm. Visit our website. We have a plethora of information there for you. We have our importers and customs brokers that you can access there on our TBL website at tradeboard.gov.jm. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure being your moderator today. I'm Rochelle White signing off. Until next time, good afternoon.